Turn the streets up, G. When the police come, tell them you didn't see anything. This is the story of Merseana Struggs, a 29-year-old OnlyFans creator who was tragically shot and killed by her boyfriend Nicholas Finley, aged 30. After an argument escalated, Nicholas chased Merseana outside their apartment as she tried to escape into a neighbor's car. Unfortunately, she collapsed before she could get away, allowing Nicholas to catch up. He stood over her and shot her multiple times until he emptied his clip. Bullet holes were even found in the neighbor's front door as a result of the violence. The reason behind her murder was uncertain, but many believed it stemmed from her refusal to give Nicholas a portion of her OnlyFans earnings. Nicholas, being her boyfriend, felt entitled to her income. Hello and welcome to Twisted Crimes. Please subscribe and hit the like button for more stories. This tragic tale takes place in Houston, Texas, where domestic violence reports have been on the rise. According to Crime Stoppers of Houston, domestic violence increased by 10% between 2019 and 2020. A University of Houston study found that intimate partner violence homicides in the Houston area doubled in 3 years, from 32 in 2019 to 64 in 2022. In 2022 alone, 51 of the 216 people killed by intimate partner violence in Texas were from Harris County. Merseana Struggs, 29, was a beautiful woman who was trying to build a life for herself. Originally from Marrero, Louisiana, she had moved to Houston for a better future. A devoted mother, Merseana did everything she could to provide for her child. In pursuit of financial stability, she decided to join OnlyFans, where she charged $35 a month for exclusive content. While people pressured her to meet them in person, she made it clear that her OnlyFans work was strictly for selling content online, not for personal encounters. Merseana was active on her platform, frequently interacting with clients to make the most of her time on OnlyFans. Unfortunately, problems began when she started dating Nicholas Finley. Nicholas, 34, became increasingly insecure and possessive about her OnlyFans work. He believed he was entitled to some of the money Merseana earned and demanded that she give him a share. Nicholas also tried to control what she posted online, but despite his attempts, Merseana stood her ground. She refused to pay him or let him dictate her life. As tensions between them grew, their relationship became volatile. Arguments became more frequent, and Merseana decided she needed to leave him for good. On July 19, 2024, she made the decision to move out, but leaving turned out to be far more dangerous than she expected. That day, an argument erupted as Merseana prepared to leave. Nicholas hit her and threatened to kill her. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, she sprinted through the apartment complex, hoping to hide in a car. But Nicholas caught up with her, stood over her, and began firing. He shot her repeatedly, emptying his entire clip. Merseana tragically died at the scene, and Nicholas fled with her purse and vehicle. A neighbor who witnessed the shooting recounted the harrowing events. She said she saw Merseana trying to escape from her boyfriend's gunfire, only to be caught and fatally shot. The neighbor described how Merseana fought to get away, but Nicholas relentlessly pursued her, shooting her multiple times until she collapsed. The neighbor and her boyfriend hid inside their home, fearing Nicholas might kill them as well. Sheriff Ed Gonzalez highlighted the grim reality of domestic violence in Harris County, noting that intimate partner murders made up 35% of the county's homicides that year. According to the Houston Area Women's Center, leaving an abusive relationship is often the most dangerous time for survivors, especially if the abuser has access to a firearm. In such cases, the risk of homicide increases by 500%. Nicholas Finley was eventually caught by the police and charged with capital murder. His bond was denied. Investigators were shocked by the brutality of the crime. Nicholas had robbed and murdered the very woman he was supposed to love and protect. His motive appeared to be financial, as he took Merseana's purse after the shooting, though it only contained a small amount of money. Merseana Struggs' death was a senseless tragedy, the result of a man who couldn't handle his emotions and chose violence over reason. He didn't want to work for his money, he wanted to live off of hers. Leaving an abusive relationship is always dangerous, but for Merseana, it cost her life. If you or someone you know is considering leaving an abusive relationship, it's crucial to seek help. Experts recommend first contacting a domestic violence expert to create a safety plan. You can reach out to the Houston Police Department's Domestic Abuse Response Team DART at 713-308-0080 for assistance. As the investigation into Merseana Struggs' murder unfolded, new details began to emerge, shedding light on the deeper dynamics of her relationship with Nicholas Finley and the escalating control he had over her life. Those who knew Merseana spoke out about the signs they had missed: subtle changes in her behavior and personality as Nicholas became more possessive and controlling. Friends recalled how Merseana had always been a lively and independent woman, but in the months leading up to her death, she had withdrawn from her social circle. She stopped going out as much, and when she did, she was often accompanied by Nicholas, who hovered over her and monitored her interactions with others. It became clear that Merseana had been trapped in an abusive relationship long before the fatal day of her murder. Nicholas, initially charming and supportive, had gradually taken over her life. He controlled what she wore, who she spoke to, and most significantly, her finances. As Merseana's success on OnlyFans grew, so did Nicholas' resentment and entitlement. He began demanding more from her, not just emotionally but financially. He believed that because he was her boyfriend, he deserved a portion of the money she earned, even though he contributed nothing to her work. Nicholas' controlling behavior was typical of abusers who often isolate their victims from friends and family and undermine their independence. In Merseana's case, her OnlyFans career became both a point of pride and a source of conflict. While it allowed her to provide for herself and her child, it also fueled Nicholas' jealousy and anger. Friends later revealed that Nicholas had pressured Merseana to quit OnlyFans altogether, claiming it was degrading. When she refused, the arguments between them intensified, leading to several violent confrontations. What many people didn't realize was just how dangerous leaving an abusive partner can be. Research shows that women are at the highest risk of being killed when they attempt to leave an abusive relationship. Merseana's decision to leave Nicholas for good was a brave one, but tragically, it also marked the beginning of the end. On the day of her death, as she packed her belongings and prepared to start over, Nicholas couldn't handle the rejection. His threats turned into deadly action, and within minutes, Merseana's life was taken. The Houston community was shaken by the senselessness of the crime. Merseana's death highlighted the all-too-common reality of intimate partner violence, particularly in relationships where financial control plays a central role. Her story resonated with many women who had faced similar situations, feeling trapped by a partner who demanded money, control, and compliance. Domestic violence organizations in the area saw a surge in calls from women seeking help, many of whom had been inspired by Merseana's story to escape their own abusive relationships. As the trial for Nicholas Finley approached, prosecutors built a strong case against him. The evidence was overwhelming. Eyewitness accounts, text messages, and social media posts all pointed to a pattern of abuse and control. Merseana had confided in a few close friends about Nicholas' demands for money and his violent outbursts. These friends would later testify in court, describing how Merseana had feared for her safety in the days leading up to her death but had also hoped she could leave without incident. During the trial, Nicholas' defense tried to argue that the shooting was a crime of passion, that he had lost control in a moment of anger and jealousy. But the prosecution pushed back, highlighting the premeditated nature of the attack. Nicholas had not only threatened to kill Merseana multiple times, but had also taken her purse and car after shooting her, suggesting that financial gain was a motivating factor. It was clear that this was not an isolated outburst, but the culmination of months of manipulation, violence, and control. As the trial progressed, Merseana's family and friends gathered to support each other, grappling with the immense loss of a woman who had meant so much to them. Her mother, devastated by the loss of her daughter, spoke out about the importance of recognizing the signs of abuse early on. She encouraged other families to intervene if they suspected their loved ones were in danger, stressing that silence could be deadly. In a powerful moment during the trial, the prosecutor read aloud messages Merseana had sent to friends, detailing her fear and frustration with Nicholas. In one message she had written, "I just want to be free. I feel like he's taking everything from me, and I don't know how to get away." Those words hung heavy in the courtroom, a haunting reminder of the control Nicholas had over her. The jury ultimately found Nicholas Finley guilty of capital murder. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, ensuring that he would never again have the opportunity to hurt another woman. While justice was served, it did little to ease the pain of those who loved Merseana. Her family, especially her young child, was left to pick up the pieces of a life shattered by violence. In the aftermath of the trial, Merseana's story continued to serve as a call to action. Domestic violence organizations in Houston and across the country used her case as an example of the dangers of financial control and manipulation in abusive relationships. Her death prompted discussions about the need for better resources and protections for women in similar situations, particularly those who are financially dependent on their abusers. Merseana Struggs' legacy became one of both tragedy and awareness. While her life was cut short by a man who couldn't handle his own emotions, her story opened the eyes of many to the silent dangers of domestic violence. In honor of her memory, friends and family launched initiatives to raise funds for domestic abuse survivors, ensuring that others would have the support and resources they need to leave dangerous relationships before it's too late. For those who knew her, Merseana will always be remembered as a strong, beautiful woman who fought to provide for her family and live life on her own terms. Though her life ended in unimaginable violence, her courage in the face of abuse has inspired countless others to seek help and protect themselves from similar fates. Her story remains a powerful reminder that love should never come with control, fear, or violence, and that it's never too late to ask for help. In the months following Nicholas Finley's conviction, the reverberations of Merseana Struggs' tragic death continued to echo throughout Houston and beyond. Her story became emblematic of the dangers of intimate partner violence, especially when financial control and manipulation were involved. Domestic violence awareness groups, along with women's rights advocates, began using Merseana's case as a central point in their campaigns to educate the public about the warning signs of financial abuse, a less visible but highly destructive form of control. Merseana's family, although still grieving, channeled their heartbreak into action. Her mother, once devastated and speechless at the trial, found her voice in the aftermath. Determined not to let her daughter's death be in vain, she began working with local domestic violence shelters and organizations to spread awareness about the importance of recognizing the early signs of abusive relationships. She shared Merseana's story at community meetings, schools, and even in interviews on local news stations, urging women to seek help before it was too late. One particularly poignant moment came when Merseana's mother, along with other survivors of domestic violence, testified at the Texas state capitol in Austin. They were advocating for stronger legislation around domestic violence, including financial control and coercion. Their testimony was powerful, and it inspired lawmakers to push for reforms that would better protect victims of intimate partner violence. Among the reforms were new protections for victims of financial abuse, recognizing that control over finances can often be a precursor to physical violence. Merseana's child, still too young to fully understand what had happened, was being raised by her grandmother. The family's focus was on creating a safe, loving environment for the child, one free from the trauma that had claimed Merseana's life. As the years passed, Merseana's family made sure that her memory was kept alive for her child, sharing stories about who she was, her laughter, her determination, and the deep love she had for her child. They wanted her legacy to be more than just a tragic headline. Meanwhile, the ripple effect of Merseana's story began to inspire change on a broader scale. Domestic violence organizations saw an uptick in calls and inquiries about financial abuse, a form of manipulation that many victims had previously overlooked or misunderstood. In response, these organizations started offering more targeted resources, such as financial literacy programs and legal aid, to help women become financially independent and escape relationships where their finances were being controlled by their abusers. In addition to these local efforts, Merseana's story gained national attention. Major media outlets and talk shows covered her case, focusing on how seemingly invisible forms of abuse such as financial coercion can have deadly consequences. Her story became part of the larger conversation about domestic violence in America, especially in the digital age where platforms like OnlyFans, while providing financial independence for some, can also complicate personal relationships when jealousy and entitlement come into play. As part of the efforts to honor Merseana's memory, her family and friends created the Merseana Struggs Foundation, an organization dedicated to helping victims of domestic abuse, especially those facing financial manipulation. The foundation's mission was clear: to provide victims with the resources, support, and education they needed to leave abusive situations safely. The foundation offered everything from emergency shelter and counseling to legal services, helping women secure restraining orders and navigate the often complicated legal landscape of leaving an abuser. The foundation also established a financial empowerment program aimed at helping survivors rebuild their lives. This program offered workshops on budgeting, savings, and job training, ensuring that women leaving abusive relationships could regain their financial independence and control over their futures. The program became a lifeline for many women who had been financially isolated by their partners and had no means of supporting themselves once they escaped. Each year, the foundation held a memorial event for Merseana where survivors, advocates, and community members gathered to remember her life and renew their commitment to ending domestic violence. These events were not only a tribute to Merseana, but also a platform for raising awareness and funds to continue the foundation's work. The turnout grew larger with each passing year, showing just how far her story had reached and how deeply it had impacted others. One particularly emotional year came when the foundation launched a scholarship program in Merseana's name, specifically for children who had lost a parent to domestic violence. The scholarship aimed to provide these children with the educational opportunities that their parents, like Merseana, would have wanted for them. The first recipient of the scholarship was a young woman whose mother had also been a victim of intimate partner violence. In her acceptance speech, she spoke about how Merseana's story had given her hope and the courage to pursue her dreams, despite the tragedy that had touched her life. While Merseana's story had a profound impact on her community, it also sparked larger conversations about the responsibility of platforms like OnlyFans. As her case became widely known, discussions about the safety and well-being of content creators emerged. Many content creators spoke out about the unique risks they face, including stalking, harassment, and financial exploitation. These conversations led to changes in how platforms like OnlyFans supported and protected their users, including better privacy settings, support for creators facing harassment, and resources for mental health and legal assistance. Nicholas Finley's life sentence brought a measure of closure to Merseana's family, but the emotional scars remained. They knew that no sentence, no amount of justice could ever bring Merseana back, but her family found solace in knowing that her death had sparked real change. Her story was saving lives, and her legacy was one of resilience, strength, and hope for those facing their darkest hours. For the women and men who attended her foundation's workshops, Merseana Struggs was more than a name on a tragic news story. She was a symbol of the fight to reclaim control over their lives. As one survivor put it during a foundation event, Merseana didn't die in vain. Her story is the reason I'm standing here today. She gave me the courage to leave, and because of her, I'm free. And so, while Merseana Struggs' life was brutally cut short, her spirit lived on in the people she had inspired, the lives she had touched, and the fight for justice she had ignited. Her death had brought light to the shadows of domestic abuse, and her legacy was one of hope and empowerment, a reminder that even in the darkest times, there is always a way out. As the years passed, the Merseana Struggs Foundation continued to grow, becoming a beacon of hope for victims of domestic violence across the country. The foundation's work expanded into multiple states, partnering with local shelters, legal aid organizations, and community groups to provide a comprehensive safety net for those escaping abusive relationships. Survivors who had once felt isolated and powerless found strength in the resources and support the foundation offered, and Merseana's story remained at the heart of the foundation's mission. The annual memorial events, which started as small gatherings, evolved into large-scale community affairs attended by hundreds of supporters, advocates, and survivors. These events not only honored Merseana's life but also provided a platform for survivors to share their stories and encourage others to speak out. Each year, more women and men stepped forward, inspired by Merseana's courage, to tell their own tales of survival and resilience. In 2030, the foundation reached a major milestone when it opened the Merseana House, a transitional living facility in Houston for women and children fleeing domestic violence. The facility provided survivors with a safe space to heal and rebuild their lives while offering counseling, legal services, and job training. Merseana House quickly became a symbol of hope, a place where survivors could regain their independence and move forward without fear of violence. The house was designed with warmth and care, ensuring that every person who walked through its doors felt valued and supported. One of the most powerful aspects of Merseana House was the mentorship program it offered. Survivors who had successfully rebuilt their lives through the foundation's support were paired with women who were just beginning their journey to freedom. These mentor relationships became a crucial part of the healing process, providing emotional support and practical advice from those who had been through similar experiences. The program helped survivors develop a sense of community and belonging, which had often been stripped away by their abusers. The Merseana Struggs Foundation also played a significant role in shaping national policy on domestic violence. After years of advocacy, the foundation successfully lobbied for the passage of the Financial Freedom for Domestic Violence Survivors Act, which ensured that survivors could access financial resources without interference from their abusers. The act made it easier for victims to open bank accounts, establish credit, and gain financial independence, critical steps for those leaving abusive relationships. This legislation was seen as a direct response to the issues highlighted by Merseana's case, where financial control had been a major factor in her abuse. Merseana's family, particularly her mother and child, continued to play an active role in the foundation's work. Her mother, once consumed by grief, had found purpose in the mission to help others. She became a leading advocate for domestic violence survivors, traveling across the country to speak at conferences, schools, and community centers. Through her work, she not only honored her daughter's memory, but also empowered other parents to recognize the signs of abuse in their children's relationships. Merseana's child, now a young adult, also became involved in the foundation. Though the scars of losing a mother to such violence never fully healed, they used their platform to raise awareness about the importance of healthy relationships and to speak out against abuse. With the foundation's support, they pursued higher education, focusing on social work and psychology, determined to help others who had experienced trauma. Their involvement in the foundation ensured that Merseana's legacy would continue through the next generation. In 2035, the Merseana Struggs Foundation launched a groundbreaking initiative aimed at addressing the intersection of technology and domestic violence. As more abusers used digital platforms to control and monitor their victims, the foundation recognized the need for new strategies to protect survivors in the digital age. This initiative provided resources and education on how to safeguard personal information, avoid digital stalking, and securely use social media platforms. The initiative also advocated for stricter regulations on online harassment and digital abuse, working with tech companies to implement features that would protect vulnerable users. As a result of the foundation's efforts, several social media platforms introduced new privacy settings and reporting mechanisms specifically designed for victims of abuse. The foundation's forward-thinking approach ensured that it remained at the forefront of the fight against domestic violence, addressing not only the physical but also the digital threats that survivors faced. As Merseana's story became a part of the national conversation on domestic violence, Her name became synonymous with the fight for justice, safety, and empowerment. Her life, though cut tragically short, had sparked a movement that saved countless others. Survivors who had once felt powerless now had a voice, a community, and the tools they needed to break free from the cycle of abuse. In 2040, the Merseana Struggs Foundation celebrated its 15th anniversary. The event was attended by thousands, including lawmakers, advocates, and survivors who had been helped by the foundation over the years. The evening was filled with powerful testimonies, emotional reunions, and a renewed sense of purpose as the foundation continued to expand its reach. During the event, Merseana's mother gave a speech that moved the audience to tears. She spoke about the pain of losing her daughter and the journey she had taken to turn that pain into something meaningful. She shared how, through the foundation, she had found healing not just for herself, but for so many others who had experienced the same heartache. As the evening drew to a close, Merseana's child took the stage to speak about their mother's legacy. They talked about the strength and resilience that Merseana had shown, even in the face of adversity, and how her memory had inspired them to fight for a world where no one would have to endure the same violence. Their speech was a poignant reminder that while Merseana's life had ended in tragedy, her impact would continue to ripple through the lives of others for generations to come. The night ended with the unveiling of a new wing at Merseana House, dedicated to providing educational resources and job training for survivors. This wing was named the Merseana Legacy Center, and it symbolized the foundation's commitment to giving survivors not just a way out, but a way forward, a future filled with hope, independence, and the knowledge that they were not alone. Though Merseana Struggs' life was taken far too soon, her story had become a powerful force for change. Her legacy lived on through the foundation, through the countless lives it touched, and through the survivors who found the strength to rebuild after abuse. In the end, Merseana had become more than a victim. She had become a symbol of courage, resilience, and the unwavering belief that everyone deserves to live a life free from violence.